Most road trips start with music, snacks, and the promise of getting away for a while. But sometimes, the road doesn't lead where it's supposed to. Sometimes, the person standing in your headlights isn't asking for help. Sometimes, the car behind you isn't just going the same way. And sometimes, the only gas station for miles isn't supposed to exist at all. Tonight, you'll hear 3 road trip stories that started with normal drives and ended with something the people involved still can't explain. The first story takes place on Route 16, where a couple found a woman standing in the middle of the road with blood on her hands. The second follows 2 siblings who realized the same car had been behind them for hours. And the final story is about a gas station that appeared at exactly the right moment, even though it wasn't on any map. So lock your doors, keep your headlights on, and whatever you do, don't assume the road behind you is empty. The woman on Route 16. She was standing in the middle of the road with blood on her hands. That was the first thing I noticed. Not her face, not her clothes, her hands. They were held out in front of her, palms up, like she wanted us to see them before we saw anything else. My girlfriend, Natalie, grabbed my arm and whispered, "Don't stop." I had already started slowing down. It was a little after midnight, and we were driving through Route 16, a narrow stretch of road that cut through miles of empty farmland and woods. We were coming back from a weekend trip, and I had taken that road because the GPS said it would save almost 30 minutes. That was the kind of decision that sounds harmless until you're on a road with no lights, no gas stations, no houses, and no other cars except your own. The woman appeared just after a bend. 1 second, the road was empty. The next, she was there, standing directly in our headlights. She looked young, maybe late 20s. Her hair was messy. Her shirt was torn near the shoulder, and there was something dark on her forearms. She was crying, or at least making the face of someone crying. But what bothered me most was that she wasn't waving for help. She wasn't running toward us. She was just standing there, perfectly still, forcing us to stop or hit her. I slowed the car to a crawl. Natalie's fingers dug into my sleeve. "Keep driving," she said. "Please." I rolled down the window just a little and called out, "Are you okay?" The woman took 1 step closer, then another. Her eyes stayed locked on mine. "Please," she said. "He's still out there." That sentence almost made me stop completely. Almost. But something about her voice was wrong. It wasn't panicked enough. It sounded practiced, like she had said the same line before and knew exactly how people usually reacted. I asked, "Do you need me to call 911? She looked past me into the back seat, then back at my face. "You have to let me in," Natalie whispered. "Drive." The woman moved closer, close enough that I could see her hands pressed against her stomach. There was blood on them, but not much. Not the way there should have been if she was seriously hurt. It looked smeared, placed. That thought made me feel horrible. Because if I was wrong, I was about to leave an injured person alone in the dark. But if I was right, stopping could get both of us killed. I told her, "I'm calling the police right now. The second I said that, her expression changed. It lasted less than a second, but I saw it. Her face went flat. No crying, no fear, just irritation. Then she stepped directly in front of the car. I hit the brakes. Natalie shouted my name. The woman placed both hands on the hood and leaned forward until her face was inches from the windshield. Her mouth moved, but I couldn't hear what she said. Then she slowly turned her head and looked toward the tree line on the right side of the road. That was when I saw the second figure, just for a moment. A man standing between the trees, mostly hidden behind the dark trunks. I didn't think anymore. I swerved around the woman, tires scraping gravel at the edge of the road, and floored it. In the rearview mirror, I saw her turn and watch us go. She didn't run after us. She didn't fall. She didn't collapse. She just stood there in the headlights until the road curved and she disappeared. For the next few minutes, neither of us spoke. Natalie had her phone in both hands, trying to call 911, but there was no service. My own phone had one bar that kept blinking in and out. I kept checking the mirrors, expecting headlights to appear behind us. Nothing. After about 10 minutes, Natalie finally said, "You did the right thing." I wanted to believe her. Then the headlights caught something ahead. A person standing in the road. Same torn shirt, same messy hair, same blood on her hands. The woman was there again. I took my foot off the gas. Natalie whispered, No, that's not possible." The road had been straight. We hadn't turned around. We hadn't stopped. There were no shortcuts, no side roads. There was no way she could have gotten ahead of us. But there she was, standing in the middle of Route 16, exactly like before. This time, I didn't slow down as much. I moved into the opposite lane to go around her. As we passed, she didn't reach for the car. She didn't ask for help. She just smiled. Not a big smile, just enough to show that she recognized us. Natalie started crying quietly beside me. I drove faster than I should have. The GPS said the nearest town was 16 miles away. The road felt endless. Every curve looked the same. Every tree line looked like it was hiding someone. Then our tire pressure warning came on. I cursed under my breath and kept driving. 30 seconds later, the car started pulling to the right. Natalie said, "Don't stop." "I know," I said. But the steering wheel was shaking badly now. A minute later, we heard the thump. Flat tire. I slowed down because I had no choice. Driving on the rim would only make things worse. Up ahead, I saw a small roadside diner with 2 lights on inside and 1 pickup truck parked out front. I almost cried from relief. We pulled into the lot, and I parked right under the brightest light I could find. The tire was completely flat. There was something stuck in it. Not a nail, not glass. A small strip of metal with sharp triangular teeth. A spike strip. Someone had placed it on the road. Inside of the diner, there were only 3 people. An older woman behind the counter, a man in a trucker cap sitting with coffee, and a teenage dishwasher visible through the kitchen window. The second we walked in, the woman behind the counter looked up and said, "You two look like you saw her." I stopped in the doorway. Natalie said. Saw who? The woman behind the counter didn't answer right away. She looked past us through the window toward the parking lot, then slowly reached under the counter and locked the front door. That did not make me feel safer. She asked where we saw the woman. I told her Route 16, near the bend after the old farm road. The trucker put his coffee down and muttered something under his breath. The woman behind the counter said, Did she ask to get in? I nodded. She sighed. Then, you were smart not to stop. The trucker explained it in a low voice. Over the past year, there had been reports along that stretch of Route 16. A woman standing in the road, pretending to be hurt. Sometimes she said someone was chasing her. Sometimes she said she had been in an accident. People would stop, get out, and then men hiding near the trees would rush the car. Robbery, car theft, sometimes worse. The police had never caught the group because nobody could give a clear description. The woman changed her hair, changed clothes, and the road had almost no cameras. Natalie asked, How did she get ahead of us? The diner went quiet. The trucker glanced at the window. Finally, he said, That's the part nobody likes talking about. He told us some people claimed they saw her twice in one night, miles apart. Others said there were two women, maybe sisters, maybe just someone dressed the same. Maybe the fear made people confused. But the diner owner didn't look convinced by any of those explanations. I asked if we could call the police. The woman said she already had. While we waited, I went outside with the trucker to look at my tire. He knelt down, pulled the metal strip out with a pair of pliers, and held it under the light. His expression changed immediately. He said, This wasn't on the road by accident. Then Natalie screamed from inside the diner. I ran back in. She was standing by the window, pointing at my car. Someone had written on the fogged glass of the passenger window, You should have stopped. The letters were fresh. The moisture was still running down, but no one was near the car. The diner owner shut off the inside lights immediately, leaving only the kitchen light on. The parking lot outside became a dark mirror. I could see our reflections in the window, but not much beyond it. Then my phone buzzed. 1 bar of service had returned. A text came through from an unknown number. It was a photo. The picture showed our car from behind, driving on Route 16. The shot had been taken from the tree line. In the image, you could see Natalie looking back through the rear window. You could see my brake lights glowing red. And at the very edge of the frame, barely visible, was the woman standing by the road watching us leave. Another text came in. You passed her twice. That was rude. I showed it to the diner owner. She whispered, Where did they get your number? I had no answer. Police arrived 15 minutes later. 2 officers came inside, asked questions, checked the parking lot, and took the spike strip. One officer told us they would escort us to the nearest motel after the tire was changed. The other officer walked around the building with a flashlight. When he came back, he looked shaken. Behind the diner, near the dumpster, they found a second spike strip. It hadn't been used yet. Beside it was Natalie's name, written in the dirt. Not my name, hers. That was when she told me something she had been too scared to mention earlier. When the woman first leaned onto the hood of the car, Natalie heard her through the windshield. I hadn't, because the engine was loud and I was focused on the road. But Natalie heard exactly what she said. She said, "Not him, her." The officers didn't let us stay at the diner after that. One of them changed the tire while the other kept watch. We followed their patrol car all the way into town, and they waited until we checked into a motel with cameras, lights, and a front desk clerk who looked half awake but real. I didn't sleep. The next morning, an officer came by to get full statements. He said they had checked the stretch of road where we first saw the woman. They found footprints near the tree line, cigarette butts, and tire tracks from at least 2 different vehicles. They also found something else. A phone. Not mine. Not Natalie's. A cheap, prepaid phone hidden in a plastic bag under some leaves. It had only one contact saved. The contact name was Route 16. The last outgoing message from that phone had been sent to my number at 12:48 a.m. The photo of our car. I asked how they got my number. The officer said they were looking into it, but it could have been from a parking receipt, a hotel booking, a gas station camera, anything. That answer didn't help. Then he showed us a still image from a traffic camera 8 miles north of the diner. It was blurry, but clear enough. Our car was passing through the frame. Behind us, maybe 3 cars back, was a dark van with its headlights off. And in the passenger seat, looking directly at the camera, was the woman from the road. Natalie started shaking. The officer said the van's plates were either covered or missing. They lost it before the next town. We drove home in daylight and took the highway the entire way. We didn't stop anywhere remote. We didn't take shortcuts. We didn't even speak much. For a few weeks, nothing happened. Then Natalie received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a printed photo. It showed the 2 of us entering the diner that night, taken from across the parking lot, through the rain, through the dark. Someone had been there the entire time. On the back of the photo, written in black marker, were 6 words. Next time, she gets in first. Natalie moved apartments 2 months later. She changed her number. I sold the car. The police kept saying there was no proof the envelope came from the same people, but we both knew. I still think about Route 16 sometimes, especially when I see someone standing too close to the road at night. I think about that woman's face in the headlights, the blood on her hands, the way she stopped pretending the moment I mentioned the police. But what bothers me most is not that she was there. It's that she was there twice, and someone knew Natalie's name before we ever opened the car door. We first noticed the headlights at 11:40 p.m. At the time, it didn't seem strange. We were on a highway in the middle of nowhere, coming back from a weekend trip, and there were only a few cars on the road. One pair of headlights behind us wasn't enough to make anyone panic. But by 3 a.m., that same car had followed us across 3 counties without stopping once for gas, food, or even a bathroom break. My sister Lauren was driving. I was in the passenger seat, half asleep, using my hoodie as a pillow against the window. We had spent the weekend visiting our aunt, and the plan was to drive home Sunday evening before traffic got bad. But we left late, argued over music, missed an exit, and somehow ended up on a long rural highway that neither of us recognized. The first time Lauren mentioned the car, I barely looked up. She said, "That SUV has been behind us for a while." I checked the side mirror. A black SUV was several car lengths back, close enough to notice, but not close enough to feel threatening. Its headlights were bright, the kind that fill your mirrors and make it hard to see anything else. I said, "Maybe they're just going the same way." Lauren didn't answer. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The SUV stayed behind us. If Lauren slowed down, it slowed down. If she sped up, it sped up. When she switched lanes, it switched lanes a few seconds later. That was when I sat up properly. I told her to take the next exit, just to see what happened. She did. The SUV followed. The exit led to a quiet road with a gas station, a closed diner, and a motel with half its sign burned out. Lauren pulled into the gas station and parked near the front door. The SUV kept going past the entrance. For a few seconds, we both relaxed. Then we saw it turn into the motel lot across the street. It parked facing us, headlights still on. Lauren whispered, "That's not normal." I told her to stay in the car while I went inside the gas station. There was a young guy behind the counter wearing headphones and watching something on his phone. I asked if the cameras outside worked. He looked annoyed, but said they did. I told him someone might be following us. That got his attention. He leaned over the counter and looked through the window at the SUV across the road. Then he said, "You want me to call someone?" Before I could answer, the SUV's headlights turned off. The motel lot went dark. I couldn't see the vehicle anymore. Lauren called me from the car and told me to come back. Her voice was shaking. I ran out, got in, and locked the door. She said, "There's someone standing beside it." I looked across the road. At first, I saw nothing. Then, my eyes adjusted. A person was standing beside the SUV, barely visible in the dark. They weren't walking. They weren't using a phone. They were just standing there, facing us. Lauren started the car. I told her to wait until a police car came, but she was already backing out. The SUV's headlights came on before we even reached the road. Lauren pulled back onto the highway. The SUV followed. That was when we both knew it wasn't a coincidence. I called 911. The dispatcher asked for our location, but we didn't know exactly where we were. I gave her the highway number from the last sign we passed and told her a black SUV had been following us for nearly an hour. She told us to stay on the main road, keep driving, and not pull over unless we reached a public place or saw an officer. Lauren kept both hands tight on the wheel. I watched the mirrors. The SUV stayed behind us. Same distance, same speed. The dispatcher asked for the plate number. I tried to read it, but the headlights were too bright. Lauren slowed down slightly, hoping it would pass. It didn't. Then, she sped up. It sped up too. The dispatcher told us there was a patrol unit about 20 minutes away. 20 minutes felt impossible. Lauren suddenly took another exit without warning. The ramp curved sharply, leading to a smaller two-lane road. The SUV followed, tires screeching faintly behind us. I shouted, "Why did you do that?" She said, "I don't know." I panicked. The road was worse than the highway. No lights, no houses, thick woods on both sides. Our GPS kept trying to reroute us back to the main road, but every route looked like a maze of county roads. The SUV moved closer. For the first time, it flashed its high beams. Once, twice. Then it turned them off completely. The road behind us went dark. Lauren whispered, "Where did it go?" I looked in the side mirror. Nothing. Rearview mirror. Nothing. Just black road. Then headlights appeared ahead of us. Lauren slammed the brakes. The SUV was parked in the middle of the road, about 100 yards ahead, facing us. Headlights off. Engine running, blocking the way. Lauren stopped the car. Neither of us spoke. The dispatcher kept asking what was happening, but I couldn't answer for a second. My mouth was dry. My hand was shaking around the phone. Then the SUV's headlights turned on. Lauren threw the car into reverse. The SUV started moving toward us slowly. Not fast, not rushing, just rolling forward like it had all the time in the world. I told Lauren to turn around. She reversed into a narrow driveway, hit the mailbox, corrected the wheel, and spun the car back toward the way we had come. The SUV accelerated behind us. The dispatcher told us the patrol car was 10 minutes away. The SUV got closer. Lauren was crying now, but still driving. I could see the headlights filling the whole back window. Then the SUV bumped us. Not hard enough to crash us, just enough to let us know it could. Lauren screamed. I shouted into the phone that they had hit us. The dispatcher told us not to stop. The SUV bumped us again, this time harder. Lauren almost lost control, but managed to keep the car straight. Ahead, the road split. The GPS said, "Turn right." A small sign said the right road led back to the highway. Lauren turned. For a few seconds, the SUV didn't. I looked back and saw it stop at the split. Then it turned left. I almost laughed from relief, but Lauren didn't slow down. She said, "It's going around." I didn't understand at first. Then I saw the GPS. The left road looped ahead, and it connected back to ours. A minute later, the SUV came out of a side road in front of us. Lauren slammed the brakes again. This time, there was no room to turn around. The SUV stopped across both lanes. The driver's door opened. Someone got out. They were tall, wearing a dark jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. I couldn't see their face. They stood beside the SUV for a moment, then started walking toward us. Slowly, I yelled at Lauren to lock the doors. They were already locked. The person raised one hand. In it was a phone. My phone buzzed against my ear. The 911 call dropped. Then, a text message appeared from an unknown number. "Get out of the car," Lauren whispered. "How do they have your number?" I didn't know. The person kept walking. Then, from behind us, blue and red lights appeared around the curve. The patrol car. The person stopped immediately. For 1 second, they looked toward the lights. Then they turned and ran back to the SUV. The SUV reversed hard, backed into a ditch, corrected itself, and sped off down the left road before the patrol car could block it. The officer stopped beside us. He got out with his hand near his belt and told us to stay inside the car. Another patrol car arrived a few minutes later. They checked on us, took our statements, and put out a notice for the SUV. We thought the worst part was over. It wasn't. The officers asked if we got the license plate. I said no, because the headlights had been too bright. One of the officers checked traffic cameras from the highway and nearby exits. It took almost an hour, but they eventually found footage of the SUV behind us. The plate was visible in one frame. When the officer came back to our car, he looked confused. He asked, "Have you owned another vehicle before this one?" Lauren and I looked at each other. I said yes. 3 years earlier, we had shared an old black sedan when we were both still in school. The engine died, and we sold it to a junkyard. The officer showed us a still image from the traffic camera. The SUV's license plate was the same plate number from our old sedan. Same letters, same numbers. I told him that was impossible. He said it was probably a stolen plate or a fake. That made sense. It should have made me feel better. But then Lauren remembered something. The old sedan had been stolen once, years before we sold it. It was found 2 days later behind an abandoned warehouse. Nothing was taken. The police said it was probably teenagers messing around. But after we got it back, weird things started happening. The trunk would be slightly open in the morning. The driver's seat would be moved back, even though neither of us sat that far from the wheel. Once, Lauren found a folded napkin in the glove box with a single sentence written on it. "Nice car." We had forgotten about all of that because nothing happened afterward. We sold the car, moved on, treated it like a creepy memory. Now, on the side of that road, with a black SUV somewhere in the dark using our old plate number, it didn't feel like a memory anymore. The police escorted us to the nearest station. We stayed there until sunrise. They never found the SUV. For 2 weeks, we heard nothing. Then Lauren got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a printed photo. It showed our car from behind on the highway that night. The photo had been taken from inside the SUV. You could see Lauren driving. You could see me in the passenger seat, turned slightly toward the mirror. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "You finally noticed." Lauren changed her number after that. We both reported the envelope, but there were no fingerprints, no usable evidence, and no cameras on the street that caught who delivered it. A month later, I got one more text from an unknown number. It was a photo of our old black sedan, not in a junkyard, not crushed, not scrapped. It was parked in front of a dark garage somewhere, dusty but intact. The message underneath said, "We kept the first one." Then, a second message came through. "Now we know where you keep the new one." I sold my car the next week. Lauren refused to drive at night for almost a year. The police still say it was probably someone who stole our old records, found our plate number, and used it to scare us. Maybe that's true. Maybe it was some long-running identity scam. Maybe someone bought the old car before it was scrapped and somehow tracked us down. But there's one thing I can't explain. The night after I sold my car, I woke up around 3 a.m. to headlights shining through my bedroom window. I looked outside. There was no vehicle parked on the street, no engine sound, no one standing there. Just two bright circles of light on my curtains, slowly fading away, like something had been watching from the road and had finally decided to leave. We found a gas station at 1:17 a.m., even though Google Maps said there wasn't one for another 40 miles. Our fuel light had been on for almost 10 minutes. Both of our phones had almost no service, and the road ahead was completely empty. So when we saw a cracked yellow fuel sign glowing between the trees, we didn't question it. We pulled in. That was our first mistake. My friend Mason was driving, and I was in the passenger seat trying to keep the GPS alive. We had taken a back road through northern Pennsylvania after a weekend trip, mostly because Mason hated highways and said scenic routes were more relaxing. But by that point, there was nothing relaxing about it. No houses, no streetlights, no passing cars, just a two-lane road cutting through thick forest and a GPS that kept freezing every few minutes. The gas station looked old, but open. 2 pumps, 1 tiny convenience store, a soda machine near the wall, and a flickering neon sign in the window that said open. There were no other cars in the lot. No insects around the lights. No sound except the engine idling and the faint buzz from the sign. Mason parked beside the first pump and said, "Lucky us." I checked the map again. Nothing. According to Google, we were parked beside an empty stretch of road. I said, "This place isn't showing up." Mason was already stepping out. Maps miss stuff all the time. Maybe he was right. Maybe I just wanted him to be right because the fuel gauge was almost below empty. Mason started pumping gas while I went inside to pay and use the bathroom. The bell above the door made a dull sound when I walked in. The air inside smelled like old coffee, dust, and gasoline. The shelves looked like they hadn't been updated in years. Candy wrappers with faded colors. Glass soda bottles. Cigarettes behind the counter with brands I didn't recognize. Somewhere behind the counter, a small radio played a distorted song so quietly I couldn't understand a single word. The cashier stood behind the register, watching me. He was an old man with thin gray hair, pale skin, and a gas station uniform with no name tag. He didn't greet me. He didn't ask if I needed anything. He just looked at me like he already knew why I was there. I asked, "Bathroom open?" He nodded once and pointed toward a hallway near the back. The bathroom was clean, but old. Too old. The mirror had a crack in the corner, and someone had scratched a sentence into the metal hand dryer. "Don't take the left road." I stared at it for a few seconds, then told myself it was probably just some local joke or old graffiti. But when I came back out, Mason was inside the store, standing near the counter with 2 bottles of water and a bag of chips. He looked irritated. He said, "Pump slow. Like really slow." The cashier finally spoke. His voice was dry and quiet. Old pump. Mason gave me a look that said he wanted to leave as soon as possible. While he paid, I noticed a corkboard beside the register. Most of the flyers pinned to it were yellowed and curled at the edges. A missing dog, a church bake sale, a hunting notice. But one flyer caught my attention. It had a faded photo of a young woman on it, and I could only make out 2 words at the top. Still missing. Before I could step closer, the cashier said, "You boys heading east?" Mason said, "Yeah." The old man looked at both of us and said, "After the bridge, don't take the left road." Mason frowned. "What left road?" The cashier didn't blink. "GPS might tell you it's faster." "It isn't." I asked, "Is the road closed?" He stared at me for a moment, then said, "Not closed, just not faster." We left without asking anything else. As I pushed the door open, I glanced back at the corkboard. The missing woman's flyer was gone. Same board, same old papers. But the one with her face had disappeared. I didn't tell Mason. I just said, "Let's go." The pump had only filled half the tank, even though Mason swore he had set it to keep going. He didn't want to argue with the machine, so we got back in the car and drove away. The gas station disappeared behind the trees almost immediately. 5 minutes later, the GPS came back to life. Turn left in 0.8 miles. Mason and I looked at each other. I said, "That's probably the road he meant." Mason kept driving. "The GPS says it saves 20 minutes. Mason, what? A creepy old guy at a gas station literally told us not to take the left road. That doesn't mean we should listen to him. The left turn appeared just after a narrow bridge over a dry creek. There was no road sign, no lights, no visible lane markings. Just a dark opening between trees. The GPS said turn left. I told him to keep going straight. For once, Mason listened. We passed the turn. The GPS froze for 3 seconds, then rerouted. Turn left in 500 feet. I looked up. Another left turn appeared ahead. Same dark opening, same angle. No sign. Mason slowed down. I said, "Don't." He drove past it too. The GPS froze again. Turn left in 300 feet. This time neither of us said anything. Ahead of us, the road curved, and another left turn appeared between the trees. Same road, same darkness. Like the forest kept offering us the same entrance over and over. Mason whispered, "That's not possible." We kept going straight. The GPS went silent. For the next 10 minutes, there were no turns at all. Just trees, wet pavement, and headlights stretching into nothing. Then, far ahead, we saw yellow lights. Mason slowed the car. The same gas station appeared on the right side of the road. Same cracked fuel sign. Same 2 pumps. Same soda machine. Same flickering open sign. Mason stopped in the middle of the road and said, "No. No, we didn't turn around." We both knew he was right. There had been no intersections, no loops, no side roads. We had driven straight. But the gas station was right there, and this time, the cashier was standing outside beneath the pump lights, waiting. Mason locked the doors. The old man didn't walk toward us. He just raised one hand and pointed back down the road toward where the bridge should have been. Then he mouthed something through the windshield. I couldn't hear him, but I knew what he said. Left road. Mason backed out so fast, gravel snapped against the bottom of the car. The cashier stayed under the lights, watching us leave. This time, we ignored the GPS completely. Whenever it told us to turn left, Mason drove straight. When it told us to make a U-turn, he kept going. When the road forked, we chose the side that looked wider. We drove like that for almost an hour, with no signal, no towns, and no other cars. Then the fuel light came on again. Mason looked down at the dashboard and slapped the steering wheel. That's impossible. We just got gas. The needle was below empty. Not low, empty. A few minutes later, the car started sputtering. Mason pressed the gas, but the engine barely responded. We rode to a stop on the shoulder beside an open field. No trees now, just fog, a wire fence, and a road that looked like it hadn't seen another car in years. Mason tried restarting the engine. It turned over twice, then died. For a while, we just sat there. Then headlights appeared behind us. A vehicle was coming slowly down the road. At first, I felt relieved. Then I noticed how slowly it was moving. Not like someone driving normally, like someone searching. The headlights stopped about 50 yards behind our car. No one got out. Mason whispered, "Is that him?" I couldn't see the driver. The lights were too bright. Then, my phone vibrated. One bar of service appeared for the first time in nearly an hour. A text came through from an unknown number. "You should have taken the left road." Neither of us moved. Another message appeared. "Now he has to come get you." The headlights behind us switched off. The darkness after that felt heavy, like something had stepped closer but refused to show itself. Mason turned the key again, over and over, until somehow the engine caught. I still don't know how. He slammed the car into drive and floored it. The engine sputtered, then roared back to life. We didn't look back. We just drove. The road finally widened around 3:30 a.m. Our phone signal returned. The GPS snapped back to normal like nothing had happened. 12 miles later, we found a real gas station. Bright lights. Modern pumps. A tired woman behind the counter. A truck driver drinking coffee near the window. Normal. Human. Safe. Mason filled the tank while I went inside and asked the cashier if there was another gas station back the way we came. An old one. 2 pumps. Maybe called Last Stop Fuel. She stopped wiping the counter. Then she asked, "Where exactly did you see it?" I told her about the bridge, the yellow sign, and the left road. She called the truck driver over. He listened without interrupting, then said, "That station burned down years ago." I felt cold before he even finished. He told us there used to be a small station out there, but it had closed after a fire. The owner died inside. Around the same time, a young woman went missing after she was last seen near the road behind the station. People had rumors about that left road, but nothing was ever proven. Mason didn't say a word. The next morning, I checked my bank app. There was a charge from the night before, $38.17. Merchant name, Last Stop Fuel. I took a screenshot. 2 hours later, the transaction disappeared from my statement. Mason didn't fully believe any of it until we checked the dash cam. The footage showed our car driving through the dark, then pulling onto the side of an empty road. No gas station, no pumps, no cashier, no open sign. For 6 minutes, the dash cam showed Mason standing outside the car with one hand stretched forward, holding what should have been a gas nozzle. But there was no nozzle. He was just standing beside the car with his hand in the air. Then I appeared in the footage, walking back from the store. But there was no store behind me, only trees. And in those trees, about 20 feet from the road, someone was standing. Not the old cashier, someone taller, thinner, almost hidden behind the trunks, watching us. Right before we drove away, Mason and I both looked toward the empty road, like someone was speaking to us. Then the dashcam audio crackled, and a voice came through. Low, dry, familiar. After the bridge, don't take the left road. We took the footage to the police. They told us there wasn't much they could do. No crime had been committed. No gas station existed there anymore. No one had gone missing that night. But a week later, one officer called me privately. He said he had looked into the old fire. The station had burned down 6 years earlier. The owner had died behind the counter, and the missing woman from the flyer I saw, the one that disappeared from the corkboard, had last been seen on that same road. The left road. He told me not to go back. I didn't need him to. Mason sold his car 3 months later. He said it never felt right after that night. The fuel gauge would drop without warning. The GPS would freeze whenever he drove after midnight. And once, while cleaning under the back seat, he found an old receipt, faded paper, almost blank ink. Last stop fuel. Time, 1:17 a.m. Total, $38.17. At the bottom, where receipts usually say thank you, someone had printed one sentence. You still owe us the rest of the trip.